In this video, I want to show you the most underrated car Toyota ever made, the Toyota Kijang, or Condor as it's known in South Africa. So this is a 2005 Toyota Condor 3000D TX 4x4. We're going to get into this car shortly, but just a brief history without boring you. The Condor started in the Philippines in 1976. It was called the Tamarao, I don't know. It was made under various names over 4 generations. In the Philippines it was known as the Revo, the Qualis it was called in India and Nepal, and then in Vietnam and Taiwan it was called the Toyota Zeiss. I remember the second generation is the first one we got in South Africa. That was called the TUV, or Toyota Utility Vehicle. That's also what Toyota internally called this thing, the Condor, because there were so many different names in different markets. So I remember the TUV, that was a super basic, just sheet metal in square shapes with the Toyota engine in there. Then the third generation that was super popular, especially for taxis in South Africa, and that was called the Stallion. That was the base model, and then the top of the range, the family SUV type thing, was the Toyota Venture bus. So this is the 4th generation. It's called the Condor in South Africa, and this specific one is the diesel, the 3-liter diesel. It's a 5L engine from Toyota, super reliable. They last forever. It was also used in the Hilux. Torque, I think, is 192 Newton meters. So it's got a lot of torque for a donkey engine like this, but kilowatts not at all, and that means the top speed is very limited. An interesting fact that I almost forgot is that I think it was the beginning of the 3rd generation in 1986, they said it was built or designed to be built so cheaply that it only cost 42% of the manufacturing cost of the small Corolla at the time. So that is how they really tried to make it as simple as possible. Now this in South Africa was marketed as the baby or entry-level Toyota Prado. It came out at around the same time as, I think it was the Toyota Prado 120. When that was launched, they launched the Condor as the cheap version. Okay, let's do a quick walk around. So the first thing you'll notice is the small-ish wheels. So these are the same size, exactly the same size as the Suzuki Jimny. So it's the Gen 3 Jimny that we also have, and even the old Samurai. It's a 205/70 15-inch. So this is the 4x4 Condor. You'll see it's diesel 4x4. It actually has a low range, which I'll show you inside just now, and the ground clearance is probably one of the biggest limiting factors with this specific model. I mean, it's got low range, center diff lock. You can go almost anywhere, but because it's got only 66 kilowatts and the ground clearance is a bit low, so you can't really deflate the tires too much, because then you start scraping the belly. It's got a belly plate there. We've been to Etosha. I've done those riverbeds, almost got stuck, but made it just by winding up the engine. There's enough torque, it's just speed that you can't get. Let's take a look inside. So I've removed the seat cover so you can just see what the seats look like. They still look brand new because these seat covers has been on there since new. It's very basic. It actually looks like my 97 Prado, the steering wheel. It's got airbags. So it's a 5-speed manual, and then it's got proper low range. So you are either in constant 4-wheel drive in high range without the center diff lock locked, or then you can switch it to high range 4x4 with the center diff locked, or then low range with the center diff locked, and then you really can go anywhere. So I've done thousands and thousands of kilometers in this Condor. I actually own one myself, and so I know that cruising at 100 kilometers per hour is just very comfortable. 110, that's fine. Maintaining 120 kilometers per hour, then your revs is quite high and you really have to step on the gas to keep it there. So fuel consumption, the interesting thing, and I found that with mine as well, no matter how you drive, you get 10 kilometers per liter. It's almost always 10. Whether you drive it in the city, whether you accelerate hard or slow, whether you drive 110 kilometers, 120 kilometers per hour, 100 kilometers per hour, you almost always get very close to 10 kilometers per liter. Okay, let's pop the hood and I'll show you this very basic Toyota 5L engine. That's one of the other things that I really love about this Condor. It's so easy to maintain. So you can see how clean this engine is. It's such a basic engine and so easy to maintain. So you've got your big air filter here, very easy to get to. Battery there with lots of space around it. Your oil dipstick there at the back. Starter, even the starter is easy to get at. It's just there. You probably can't see it, it's too dark, but it's very easy to access from the top. Aircon works very good. It's actually even on the lowest setting it's too cold, and this is after 21 years. There's the big oil filter there at the bottom, a spin-on filter, very easy to get to. It's just such an easy car to maintain, and it's not much that you have to do. You drain the oil, that's almost all. Just oil and filters every 10,000 kilometers, and it runs good. This one has 260,000 kilometers on it, and it still looks like a new car. So another thing that I love about this is the high roof. So there's a lot of space inside. I'll show you the seating arrangement just now, but also it has this gutter here. So it's so easy to fit a very basic roof rack. You can even make your own one. You don't have to buy some fancy forerunner or whatever, or front runner roof rack. ABS and one airbag, mine didn't have that. Now has a full bench in the middle, so that's 3 people. And then at the back, it's got these fold down seats that takes another 3 people. So this is an 8-seater. You can see how big this boot is. That's a 25-liter water can. Look at how big this is. And then you can fold down the seats and have space for 8 people and still some luggage space. And I know a grown-up can sit in back one of these like 3rd row seats, because I've sat in one of them for a couple of 100 kilometers when we went for a cycle race in a friend's Condor. That was about 15 years ago. And look at the condition of this roof lining. And the nice thing is, this is not like your, what do you call that material, like the felt type material that gets dirty. This is a vinyl, plasticky vinyl type material. So that's why it looks like this. It's just such a great, thought out, practical vehicle. I love it. Now, every vehicle has their downsides or negatives. So if I have to think off the top of my head about the Condor, the one big negative is the fact that it's so slow. If you drive from here to Cape Town, for instance, it's 2,000 kilometers. Go check out this video where I did that in 2 days on my BMW R1200 GSA. That was a treat. But anyways, with this, you're gonna have to really push hard to get there in 2 days. To drive 1,000 kilometers in a day, it's gonna be hard work. Because it's not because it can't maintain 120 kilometers per hour. That's 75 miles per hour, the national speed limit. It's because it's difficult to get there if you've lost your speed. On uphills you might lose it, and overtaking is a big problem. You need a lot of space to overtake a truck that's doing 100 if you want to do 120. And that is one of the biggest downsides. It gets quite tiresome to drive far. Also, if you drive thick sand, you may be towing something, or it's fully loaded and you're driving thick sand and it gets uphill, you have to wind it up because it gets quite precarious. There's a chance that you might get stuck, and with the very low kilowatts, you can't just wind it up and go and move like a turbo diesel. But we have done quite thick sand where people in cold rodeos, or there was even I think it was a Discovery that got stuck. They were towing and we weren't, and they said, don't try it in the Condor, you're not going to make it. And we made it very easily. I did inflate the tires a bit, but we just went up there. And so the Condor, everyone that's seen a 4x4 Condor at a 4x4 day will tell you stories of how surprised they were where these Condors went. And film crews often drive these Condors at those days, and they just follow all these hardcore 4x4s and they make it wherever everyone else goes. But the downside is that there's always in the back of your mind, if you go through Savuti or somewhere on your own to Kubu Island, and you don't have that extra power to get you through, you'll definitely not do the Namib Dune routes with one of these. And then another negative, you can say it's a negative or a positive, is the fact that everyone wants it. I don't think the 4x4 ones get stolen that often. I know the Venture Bus was a problem. People stopped driving them as family vehicles because they were getting stolen for taxis. This thing is too slow. No one wants this 5L for a taxi. You'll just waste time getting to places. But people do stop you and ask you, can they buy it? Can you buy it? And for some people that's uncomfortable. I don't mind it. I love chatting to people about cars, so I really don't mind it. But it can be annoying for some. So is it a downside? I don't know. Okay, I have to think of one more downside, and I'm really struggling here. I think it's going to be subjective. A lot of people say it's very ugly, and I can see why they say that. I love the look. I love it because it's understated. People always underestimate this thing. So maybe that's a downside. If you can think of anything negative of the Condor, please let me know. Some people call it the Toyota condom. Maybe that's a negative. I don't know. What else? Oh, spare parts for it. That could be a problem because it's such a niche thing. They weren't made in that many. They weren't made in any Western countries. They weren't sold in huge numbers even here. So getting parts, you have to get it from Toyota. There's not a lot of aftermarket parts. Like if you want to raise the suspension, for instance, they don't just make an Ironman or a opposite lock or whatever, or a Tough Dog or whatever for the Condor. You have to buy local camel suspension, which is fine, but it's not just a plug and play from any aftermarket 4x4 specialists. You have to shop around or maybe use something else. So that is probably a downside, but because it doesn't really need a lot of maintenance and nothing really breaks, it's never been a problem in the 21 years that we've had in the family. Anyways, if you have any questions on the Toyota Condor or Kijang or what do you want to call it, please let me know in the comments, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Now as I drive off, see how quickly this thing starts every time. Waiting for the glow plug light to go off. Foot slightly on the accelerator. Turn the key, fraction, and there it goes. Cheers.